Hi there, this is Popo, I hope you're all fine, and welcome back to the Match Chess Miniature series, where we cover some real match chess games that happen on real life, on real board, against real people, actually the friends of a chess club. And here this is the time for the Scarabs. And Scarabs are the most recent faction I would cover here, because I decided to modify some of the rules of the Scarabs for a time, but with the recent patch I decided to just follow what actually the patch said. And I guess now the Scarabs are way better. It concerns some kind of queen and king range and stuff. So here, when I introduced them this faction, they just didn't understand why you needed to do a faction about this. Like, they weren't convinced. And then I showed them some very cool tactics here, and then they really liked actually the faction, and they really wanted to try a lot of stuff and that. And then they decided to record some games, and they called me and say, okay, now you can record the game, and we're ready for this. So here, the two opponents we have here is the guy which plays with the genies, and the guy which played with the centaurs. So this matchup would come often, because these guys all often play some games of match chess. And here, so bold move lovers, and we have a tactician, remember. So let's go over the game. So we have pawn to d4, and here there's an anecdote here, because the move which would play here, you could play d5, but he decided to play pawn to d6, and after pawn to e4 he decided pawn to e6, because at that time, you remember the game which was always bullied at chess and was losing his games, he would always get to play this opening, which is very bad. Obviously he played several games, and then that was some kind of roast, actually. It would say, okay, oh, this is actually, and they quote the name of the guy, this is opening. So, like, it became very popular at this time. So, yeah, this is very stupid, but, you know, sometimes some people want to joke. So, Hug to f3 is played, we have bishop to d7, so yeah, this bishop is completely stupid, so maybe you want to put it on c6 later, I don't know. So, stack to f4, very nice development. Queen to f6, maybe a little early, but I can understand the fact that you want maybe to play a knight to c6 and castle long here, and then try to push here. So, the opening seems decent. We have Rhino to d2, protecting the stack because he was attacked at this time. And we have now bishop to c6, which is played. Bishop to c6 is not the right move, I would say, because you get a tempo at some point and you would force to go back. I guess the point is that you want to develop the knight to d7 and try to push here on e5. Okay, I can understand the idea. Hug to c3 is played, like not wanted to defend particularly, and now knight to d7 is played, so now the opponent is ready to castle long. Stack to e2, so also castle is happening, and a knight to b6, so again wasting a move to put the knight. Maybe the castling first was better here. So pawn to d5 is played then, but thanks the knight is now at b6, so after pawn captures and pawn recaptures, now the bishop goes back on d7, and now it would later have a good diagonal, but yeah, these pieces are not doing anything for now. We have a long castle and a bishop to f5, and here I would really, again, this was the good idea to castle immediately. You want to put your king safety because you never know what can happen with some kind of things. Remember that there are combos. So bishop to f5 is not a bad move because he wants to target this diagonal later on, and maybe, I don't know, or maybe the goal is that you just want to go here, develop the thing and castle queenside, and then try to push these pawns, like to go with opposite castle. I'm not sure this is the right idea, but anyway, bishop to s5 is played. Hug to d4, getting the tempo here, so the bishop goes back on g6, so now this bishop is definitely going to get this diagonal. And Hug to b5 is played. Hug to b5, of course, this is a pretty good move. It goes for Hug takes c7. And here, Black thought of the move here that could be interesting. What was the idea of Black? The idea of Black was pawn to c5. With the idea that if you play Hug to c7, then you put the king on d7, you take, and then you just have, for example, to take this way, and maybe you have the trade here. Like, not that clear of this. Maybe the plan was, after this takes, you capture, you recapture, you capture, and then capture, but and then he captures this way, and goes here, and the position seems relatively better. Like, this is very hard to tell because here you have 4 pieces for 4 pieces. Okay, you are still better because you have 2 rooks, but here you lost the coordination basically, because only things, both knights are gone, and yeah, that would be a way to defend. But at the same time, your other pieces are not developed, and you have isolated pawns. So I'm not sure if that calcul is the best one. So here, after what happened here, so we have especially Rook to c7 and king to d7. Why king to d7? You can't play king to d8 because you lose the queen. This is pinned. So king to d7, of course, has to be played. So after this, we have Rook to b5 instead of taking the rook. And now this is very crazy because these rooks are very strong here, and you can have some ugly attacks, I have to say. So here in this position, rook to b8 is played, so now the rook is safe. But now comes rhino to a5, and now something is strong is coming. You want to go here on a7. But here, this rhino was defended, this stag on f4, so the queen can capture it with check. The only problem is that the king is range 3, so if the queen captures, the king would capture the queen. As stupid as this looks. Like, this is a real move that can be played on the game. And here you don't have any other way to do check then. So the king has slowly to go back. Even this is scary, but you have a lot more activity here. So here the aim now is to undo the power of the rhino. If you move another piece in rhino, I don't know, for example, you moved here and you move this, then the king is not, how I would say, a trick, no. Oh, I don't have the term with that. I would get the term later. So he's not ready to use his powers, so then you can take the stag. So this is why in this position... No, I didn't wanted this, excuse me. My mouse begins to sleep, so let me get back the moves very quickly. So now you get the idea of the rest of the game. Okay. 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 Yes. And now rhino to a5, excuse me. So in this position, black decided to play bishop captures c2. And now the point is not that stupid, in fact. You can't really capture this bishop, because here the queen is going to capture the stag and threat to go here. Even you can have some compensation, of course, by taking here. The king is not that much in safety in some way, and you would have some tricks, I guess. But remember that you're playing against the scarabs, so it's not that good. But the king seems exposed here, so it seemed to be a good idea here. My mouse is going to sleep. So here in this position, we have rhino to a7. And here the point is kind of cool because you grab a pawn, you threat to get the rook exchange, and your king is still aware of guarding this f7 stag. So here bishop captures d1, and rhino captures b8, and suddenly black realized that something is wrong. Very wrong. So feel free to pause the video and find what is wrong with this position. Okay, I hope you find it. The find is wrong is that there's just mate here. And I say, okay, you can defend against this square, you can, for example, put the queen on e7. Well, yeah, but there's another problem. Is that you just have to play this, and this is checkmate. Why? Because it triggers, yeah, I have the term now. It triggers here the Rook. So the Rook would have the knight movement, but also a rook by 2 movement. So if I just put for each move, so these squares are put by the rhino, this Rook controls this square and this square, this Rook controls this square, and this pawn controls this also. So you see that this king is completely smothered, and this is just checkmate. So here, how do you defend this? This is not that easy. You can decide to defend with the queen, with the idea that, okay, you will be able to survive if there is some big stuff here. But that's not that easy, again, because here you just have to slide this, that comes with check, so again the king can't move, so you have to capture with the queen. Then the rhino captured, and this is check, so then you have only one move to play. Then you have to go for an Rook I won't say sacrifice because you just have to capture, but this is not check. So the king again is moved, so you have to capture with the bishop. But then comes the stack that comes with check. And here, if the king goes here, basically this is checkmate. So you have first to defend with the knight. So the rhino captures. Then you have to put the king on e8. Then the stack captures, and this is again check. Then you have to defend with the knight. And here, basically, you can take go here, but I guess just putting the rhino here is better. And this is checkmate sooner. So yeah, a very strong combination here. So this is why in the game we have instead a very crazy move which is played. I don't know how to quantify this. Queen captures f4. A queen sacrifice out of nowhere. And the idea is not that stupid. This is a kind of bold move that the bold move player of black likes to play. And the idea is that if you decide to capture the bishop and say, okay, I don't want to put my king exposed to a lot of checks, then the queen still have some checks and you can check on a4. And here, basically, okay, you can go here and then you can do this way, queen to d4 check, sacrifice the queen, and after take here. And then you brief a little more. That's just the idea of this. Because after this, okay, you can just go back and go for check, but you have less pieces. But here, actually, you have other ways to do. Here in the game, I didn't calculate it all the lines, but White decided to go for this funky move, king captures f4. Like, this is a move that, remember that they play on the classical chess ball, so this is funny as hell to see the king going 3 square away to capture a queen. Like, this is the dream of every chess player. You check by a queen for far away, you just capture the queen with the king. Like, this is funny as hell. So you can get a few checks here. For example, you can get checked this way, but you just have to go back and ignore this, so the checks won't last. So instead we have knight captures d5 with check, and here this is pretty simple. You just want to capture the knight and win some tempos because the mate threats are still there. So captures d5, and now bishop takes e2. And now there's no the coordination that before. You have to put this away, and this is the end. So here the tactician decided to think a little, and he come with a very cool solution to end the game. Actually, is Hug to b6 check. Hug to b6 check is a very nice move. You have 3 options. So if you go for the first option, there's king to c6. It's just made by, for example, dunk to e1. Because they protect each other, they control d square, they control d square, and they control d square. Like, this is a very nice way to mate with both of the pieces. And even if you remove these pawns here, the king is just stuck because this is controlled, this is controlled, this is controlled. Like, let me draw the rows. Here this is controlled, here this is controlled, like this control each other. Then this controls here, this controls here, this controls here. Like, I really like the way it does. Also this controls here. So yeah, that's very funny geometry. So of course you can do this. So second option is to go here with check, but then you run into a rhino to d6 check. Then the king has to go here, and basically rhino go to d7, and this is checkmate. So he went for the third option with king to e6. And here, okay, this is pretty simple to end the game, but if you want, you can pause the video and find the winning ID for White. Well, I'll give you a couple of seconds. So here, basically, if I thought about going here, that's not the best move because here you have a double block. So here you have to force your king to run somewhere. So you just have to play rhino to c8 check. And here, for example, if your king would decide to go here, this is not possible because this king now guards this square, and even he would be able to move here, then you just put the rhino to this location, and this is checkmate. So you're forced to go king to e7, and now you just end the game with rhino to d7 check again. Please remember that this king can still can't go here because the king is here on f7, f6 to guard. So a very nice game with the scarf. So let me go back with the whole combination to see what happened actually with this crazy thing. So it went very hard here because after this kind of tactic with here, you have the rook trade, and then you realize this is over. You sacrifice the queen, you just sacrifice the knight, you take the stack because okay, why not? You take a piece, and then basically you have check, go here, check, go here, and then checkmate. So yeah, so this is the end of this game with the scarabs. I hope you liked it. I guess this game is very interesting and very, actually very funny, because you keep the rhino on the board, and when you with your king you have a very good team up, and this is, I guess, the only faction where your king can get a significant role here in the mid game in some way. That goes very wild, I would have to say. Also, please note that the position is very advantageous for the scarab, so it helps to this kind of tactics. Maybe in some very tight games that wouldn't happen, but you never know. Maybe we'd find some interesting games in the club, or maybe on the matchless server. So this is it for the scarabs. See you then, and bye.